At first, it looked like nothing, just a dead patch of forest. Quiet, flat air, no birds. Then he saw the camper, not parked, abandoned, half hidden behind branches like the woods had been trying to swallow it for years. The windows were dark, the paint was blistered, one tire sat low in the dirt. He almost kept walking, then he noticed the door, not shut, slightly open. Just enough to feel wrong. He stood there longer than he should have, listening. No voices, no movement, only the soft tap of something loose inside, hitting metal with the wind. He stepped closer. The smell hit first. Old plastic, stale fabric, and something sharp under it, like chemicals that shouldn't be in the forest. He pushed the door. It creaked once, loud enough to make him freeze. Inside, his flashlight found clutter blankets, torn bags, empty cans, normal junk, because the mess wasn't random. It was staged, items lined up, carefully placed, like someone had been living here recently and didn't want the place to look lived in. He stepped in, 1 foot. The floor dipped under his weight. A sound came from deeper inside the camper, not an animal. He held his breath. The flashlight beam shook as it moved toward the back. A curtain hung there, ripped and tied in a knot. He stared at it. He didn't touch it. He scanned the walls instead. A panel seam, not factory, not normal. A line in the wall where the material didn't match. His stomach tightened, because campers don't grow new screws on their own. And only then did he notice something else. The ground outside, no weeds near the door, trampled earth. Multiple footprints, not old, fresh enough that the edges hadn't softened. Someone had been coming here. He pulled his phone. 1 bar, then 2. His thumb hovered. For a second, he argued with himself. Maybe it's nothing. Then his light caught a bag near the front seat. A heavy-duty bag sealed tight, tucked under his seat as if it was meant to disappear. He didn't open it. He didn't touch it. He turned and walked away fast back toward the trail, back toward open space. Then he called. He kept his voice low, like the forest could hear him. Abandoned camper, deep in the woods, door open. Sign someone's using it, something hidden inside. He gave his location, and then he waited. Every minute felt too long. He watched the tree line, listened for engines that shouldn't be here, for footsteps in leaves, for a voice calling out. Nothing, but the quiet felt intentional. When the first vehicles finally arrived, they didn't roll in loud. The officers didn't walk straight to the camper. They looked around first, as if they already knew what kind of place this could be. One of them spoke to him briefly. "Where did you step? What did you touch?" He answered. "Nothing. I didn't touch anything." The officers moved in. 2 stayed outside. They pulled out the first bag. Heavy, sealed. They didn't open it in the camper. They didn't smell it. They treated it like it could hurt them without warning. Then another bag, then another. And then, items wrapped tight, hidden where hikers would never look. The officer inside found the panel seam. He pressed it. The wall shifted slightly. A false section, a compartment, not for camping gear, for things that were never meant to be found. The forest went silent again, and the man standing on the trail realized something simple and terrifying. He didn't stumble onto junk, he stumbled onto a hideout, and whoever built it didn't plan on leaving it behind. The first officer stepped back out of the camper and didn't speak right away. He looked at his partner, then at the trees, then back at John, a short hand signal. 2 more officers moved in slow, wide spacing like they were entering a room with someone still inside. John stayed where they told him, hands visible, no closer. From the trail, he watched them work. No rushing, no shouting, just quiet coordination. 1 officer circled the camper, scanning the ground. Another stayed near the door, listening. Then the radio crackled 1 sentence, clipped and low. The tone changed again. Not curiosity now, containment. They brought out more bags, each one sealed, marked, and placed on the ground like it mattered which way it faced. Nothing was opened. Nothing was handled twice. John tried to read faces. He couldn't, because this wasn't the kind of scene where people react with shock. This was the kind where people stop showing anything at all. The officer inside found the panel seam again and pressed. A section of wall shifted. Not much, just enough to confirm it. A false wall, a hidden compartment, then another. A second seam lower down, hidden behind a torn seat cushion. And something dark and metallic sat inside, packed tight in cloth. The officer froze for half a second. Then he carefully pushed it back in place. John couldn't see what it was, but he didn't need to. 1 moved toward the tree line, 1 moved toward the trail, like they were expecting company. That was when John realized the camper wasn't just abandoned. It was active, a storage spot, a temporary hide, a place you visit, not a place you live. And that meant there was a schedule. Someone had been coming here, maybe today, maybe tonight. John's phone buzzed in his hand, no message, just a low vibration, his own nerves. He stared at the woods. The wind moved leaves. Shadows shifted. Every dark gap between trees suddenly looked like a Tariq el-Shay Uswa. An officer approached him. "Did you see any vehicle on your way in?" John shook his head. "Any voices? Any people?" "No." The officer nodded like that didn't reassure him at all. They moved John farther back, away from the camper, behind a bend in the trail where he couldn't see the door anymore. That's when he heard the sound, not from the camper, from the forest. A faint engine note, very far off. Not a car on a road, something smaller, a machine that can travel where roads don't exist. It lasted seconds, then vanished. The officers heard it too. You could tell by how their heads turned at the same time. One of them spoke into the radio again, shorter this time. John stood still, breath shallow. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. But the feeling didn't leave. A hidden place in the woods only stays hidden if people avoid it, and someone had worked hard to make this camper invisible. The officers went back to the camper, but not all of them. One stayed outside with his eyes on the trees. Inside, they found more. Not more clutter, more structure. A compartment behind the cabinet, a false bottom under the floor. They weren't rooms like a movie. They were tight, crude hides, built for one purpose: to store things long enough to move them later. The officer returned to John with a firm voice now. "You did the right thing calling." John tried to speak, but his mouth was dry. "What is it?" he asked. The officer didn't answer directly. He just said, "This isn't camping gear." Then he added, almost like a warning, "Don't tell anyone where this is." That sentence hit harder than anything else, because it meant the danger wasn't finished. It was simply being handled quietly. More vehicles arrived later unmarked. No sirens. People in protective gear. People with gloves and sealed containers. They treated the camper like it could bite, and when they finally closed the door, they didn't leave it standing there. They marked the area. They secured it. They started documenting everything: angles, ground, tree line. Not because the camper was interesting, because it was connected. A place like this doesn't exist alone. It's part of a chain, and chains lead somewhere. John gave his statement over and over. How long he'd been hiking, where he turned off the path, what he smelled, what he saw, what he touched. Nothing. He kept saying it. The forest looked normal again. Same trees, same light. But John couldn't unsee it. A door slightly open, a seam in the wall, footprints that didn't belong. And the worst part wasn't what was inside the camper. The worst part was how close he had been to finding out that someone was still using it. If he had waited inside longer, he wouldn't have been the one calling.